There's a vault in Kentucky holding something so valuable that its location has more armed guards than most prisons. A military base so secret, the government denied it existed for 40 years. And an island where the ground itself is poisoned with a toxin so lethal, it could kill every person in New York City. These places are real. They're in America. And you will never, ever be allowed inside. I'm about to take you through 10 locations on American soil that are completely off-limits to the public. Some guard the nation's darkest secrets. Others protect us from horrors we can barely imagine. And a few, well, we still don't fully understand why they're forbidden at all. Just off the coast of Long Island sits an 840-acre island that most New Yorkers have never heard of. Plum Island. The Department of Homeland Security operates a facility here that studies the world's most dangerous animal diseases. Foot and mouth disease. Rinderpest. African swine fever. Pathogens so contagious and devastating that a single outbreak could cripple the nation's food supply within weeks. The island has been restricted since 1954, and for good reason. The facility handles diseases classified at biosafety levels 3 and 4, the highest danger ratings that exist. But here's what makes Plum Island truly mysterious. In 2008, the decomposed body of an unidentified creature washed up on a nearby beach. The Montauk Monster, as it was called, had leathery skin, sharp teeth, and a beak-like mouth. Officials claimed it was just a decomposed raccoon. Many weren't convinced. Local residents have reported strange animal carcasses washing ashore for decades. Some believe the facility has experimented with bioweapons. Others think genetic experiments have gone wrong. The government denies everything, of course. But in 2003, a worker at Plum Island exposed nearly 200 people to a dangerous pathogen due to safety violations. The incident was kept quiet for years. The facility is now being replaced with a new biodefense center in Kansas, and Plum Island is scheduled for decommissioning. What they'll do with decades of contaminated soil and buildings? That remains classified. But one thing is certain, you're not getting in to find out. Carved 600 feet into the granite of Little Cottonwood Canyon, there's a vault that contains one of the world's largest collections of genealogical records. The Granite Mountain Records Vault, operated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, holds over 3.5 billion images of historical documents on microfilm, birth certificates, death records, census data, immigration papers dating back centuries. The vault was built in 1965 to withstand a nuclear blast. The records inside trace the lineage of millions of families across the globe. But here's the question that haunts researchers: why go to such extraordinary lengths? The church says it's about preserving history and helping people discover their ancestry. Fair enough. But the vault is equipped with 14-ton blast doors that can seal in 3.5 seconds. The temperature is maintained at a constant 55 degrees with 35% humidity. Armed guards protect the entrance 24/7. The level of security rivals Fort Knox. And stranger still, not all the microfilm contains public records. Some sections remain classified, even from most church members. Former employees have signed non-disclosure agreements preventing them from discussing what they've seen inside. One ex-worker claimed that certain chambers contain documents related to sacred temple rituals that are never to be seen by outsiders. Others speculate the vault holds evidence of controversial historical events the church would prefer to keep hidden. Financial records. Secret ceremonies. Perhaps even documents that could rewrite accepted Mormon history. The church insists everything is simply about genealogy and protecting history for future generations. But if that's true, why the military-grade security? Why the absolute prohibition on public access? And what exactly is in those sealed chambers that even faithful members aren't allowed to see? On the Jicarilla Apache Reservation in northern New Mexico, beneath Archuleta Mesa, there may or may not be a massive underground facility known as Dulce Base. I say, may or may not, because the US government claims it doesn't exist at all. Yet since the 1970s, locals and visitors have reported bizarre phenomena in the area. Unmarked black helicopters. Strange lights over the mesa at night. Cattle found mutilated with surgical precision, organs removed, blood completely drained, and no tracks around the carcasses. Between 1975 and 1983, over 30 cattle mutilations were reported in the Dulce area alone. The rumors intensified when a man named Paul Benowitz, an Albuquerque businessman, claimed to have intercepted electronic communications from an underground base near Dulce. He alleged the facility was a joint operation between the US government and extraterrestrial beings. According to Benowitz, the base contained 7 levels, with the lower floors dedicated to genetic experiments involving humans and aliens. His claims were sensational, certainly. But here's what makes them interesting. Benowitz was visited multiple times by Air Force investigators from Kirtland Air Force Base. They didn't arrest him. They didn't debunk him. Instead, they seemed to encourage his beliefs. Some researchers now think Benowitz was the victim of a disinformation campaign designed to make him appear crazy while covering up actual classified operations in the area. In 1988, a man claiming to be a former Dulce base security officer named Thomas Costello came forward with papers, photos, and videotapes allegedly taken inside the facility. The materials showed multi-level underground complexes, strange laboratory equipment, and what appeared to be holding cells. Costello vanished shortly after, and the materials were confiscated. True or false? Paranoid delusion or government cover-up? The area remains restricted by the Jicarilla Apache Nation, and the government maintains no such base exists. But they've never explained the cattle mutilations, the lights, or why so many military personnel have taken such an interest in a supposedly empty stretch of desert. Try to visit Archuleta Mesa, and you'll be turned away. Try hard enough, and you might disappear into a legal black hole of tribal land restrictions and federal trespassing charges. You've heard of Fort Knox. Everyone has. It's become synonymous with impenetrability. The United States Bullion Depository, built in 1936, allegedly holds 147.3 million ounces of gold bars, that's roughly $270 billion worth at current market prices. It's the largest gold reserve in the world. But here's the twist, nobody outside a handful of government officials has actually verified that gold is still there. The last public audit was in 1953. Since then, the vault has been sealed tighter than any location in America. The building is constructed from granite, steel, and concrete. The vault door weighs 20 tons. The depository is surrounded by razor wire, electric fences, minefields, and armed guards authorized to use lethal force. Even members of Congress have been denied entry. In 1974, several senators demanded an inspection amid rumors that the gold reserves had been secretly sold or didn't exist at all. They were given a brief, highly controlled tour of one vault compartment, less than 5% of the facility. The rest remained off-limits. And it's not just gold inside. During World War II, Fort Knox stored the original Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Gettysburg Address, and even the British Crown jewels. What else has been kept there over the decades? What might still be there now? Conspiracy theorists suggest the vault holds far more than gold. Secret documents related to UFO encounters. Evidence of classified government programs. Financial records that would expose decades of corruption. Some even claim the gold was swapped out years ago as collateral for loans from foreign nations, and Fort Knox is now an elaborate theatrical prop. The government says that's absurd. The gold is there, secure and accounted for. But they won't let anyone verify it. Not Congress. Not auditors. Not the public whose tax dollars supposedly guard it. The message is clear, trust us, but you're never getting in to confirm. Just 48 miles from Washington, D.C., beneath the Blue Ridge Mountains, lies a massive underground city that most Americans don't know exists. Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center is a Cold War relic turned modern-day doomsday bunker, designed to house the President, Congress, and Supreme Court in the event of a catastrophic attack. The facility is operated by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, and contains everything needed to sustain the continuity of government during a national crisis. Underground lakes, power plants, dormitories, a hospital, even a crematorium. It's a fully functioning subterranean city capable of housing thousands of people for months. Mount Weather became publicly known in 1974 when a commercial airliner crashed into the mountainside, killing 92 people. The crash drew attention to what locals had long suspected: something massive was hidden beneath that mountain. The government confirmed the facility's existence but revealed almost nothing about its operations. Here's what we do know. On September 11, 2001, high-ranking government officials were immediately evacuated to Mount Weather. During the 2020 pandemic, key personnel were moved there as a precaution. The facility has been activated during every major crisis over the past 50 years. But here's the disturbing part: the government has a secret list of individuals who would be saved in the event of a nuclear war or catastrophic disaster. It's called the Continuity of Government list, and it's classified. No one knows who's on it. No elected officials vote on it. Somewhere in Mount Weather's computers is a database determining who lives and who gets left behind when the end comes. Former government insiders claim the facility also contains extensive surveillance systems monitoring communications across the country. Some believe Mount Weather serves as a shadow government headquarters, operating outside constitutional oversight. The area surrounding Mount Weather is heavily restricted. Signs warn that trespassers will be prosecuted under federal law. Armed guards patrol the perimeter. Unauthorized aircraft are forbidden from flying overhead. What goes on inside those mountain chambers remains one of America's most closely guarded secrets. If the apocalypse comes, remember, there's a shelter ready. But you're not on the list. Of course, Area 51 is on this list. How could it not be? The name alone conjures images of extraterrestrial beings, reverse-engineered spacecraft, and government cover-ups. But separate the science fiction from reality, and Area 51 becomes even more fascinating. The facility, officially called Groom Lake, sits within the Nevada Test and Training Range. For decades, the government refused to acknowledge it existed at all. Then, in 2013, the CIA finally admitted Area 51 was real, a testing ground for classified military aircraft. Every UFO sighting during the Cold War. The U-2 spy plane, which flew at altitudes no one thought possible. Those triangular aircraft spotted in the 1980s. The F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighter, tested years before the public knew it existed. The government wasn't hiding aliens. They were hiding technology so advanced it seemed otherworldly. But that's the official story. And it doesn't explain everything. It doesn't explain why Bob Lazar, a physicist who claimed to work at Area 51 in the late 1980s, accurately described advanced propulsion systems years before they became scientific reality. Lazar insisted he worked on reverse engineering alien spacecraft at a facility called S4, south of Groom Lake. He described a stable form of element 115 being used as fuel, an element that didn't officially exist until it was synthesized in 2003. Lazar provided details about his security clearance and supervisors that later checked out. He passed multiple polygraph tests. Yet the government claims he never worked there, and mysteriously, all records of his education and employment have vanished. In 2019, millions of people joined a Facebook event to storm Area 51. It was meant as a joke, but over 2 million people signed up. The military responded with a very serious warning: the use of lethal force is authorized. Guards are instructed to shoot trespassers on sight. Why such extreme measures if it's just a testing facility? The perimeter is monitored by sensors so sensitive they can detect a person from miles away. Unmarked white trucks patrol constantly. The surrounding mountains are dotted with cameras. And anyone who gets too close is intercepted by guards who locals call camo dudes, private security contractors with authority to detain and arrest. What's being tested there now? Hypersonic aircraft? Directed energy weapons? Autonomous drones that could reshape modern warfare? Or is there truth to the stranger claims, materials and technology that didn't originate on Earth? The government will never tell us. And you're definitely not getting in to find out. At the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs stands one of the most striking religious buildings in America, the Cadet Chapel, with its 17 aluminum spires reaching toward the sky. Tourists can visit the chapel. They can admire its architecture, attend services, and explore most of the building. But beneath it, there's a vault no civilian will ever see. The Air Force refuses to discuss what's stored in this underground chamber. Officially, it's described only as secure storage for materials related to the Academy's mission. But former cadets have whispered about its contents for decades. Some claim it holds the Academy's most sensitive historical documents. Others say it contains evidence of UFO encounters reported by military pilots, testimonies too credible to ignore but too sensitive to release. The Air Force has a complicated relationship with UFO phenomena. In 1969, Project Blue Book, the military's official UFO investigation program, was shut down with the conclusion that UFOs posed no threat. Yet thousands of reports were filed, and many remain unexplained to this day. Some researchers believe the most compelling evidence was never included in Blue Book but was instead classified at higher security levels. Could that evidence be in Colorado Springs? The timing is intriguing. The Cadet Chapel was completed in 1962, during the height of UFO sightings and public interest. The vault was incorporated into its design from the beginning, not added later as an afterthought. And there's another detail: Colorado Springs is home to NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, carved into Cheyenne Mountain just miles away. NORAD tracks every object in North American airspace. Every satellite. Every aircraft. And, yes, every unidentified object that shouldn't be there. In recent years, the Pentagon has acknowledged that military pilots regularly encounter unidentified aerial phenomena that perform maneuvers impossible with known technology. These encounters are now taken seriously at the highest levels of government. Videos have been released. Hearings have been held. But the full scope of what the military knows, that remains locked away. Perhaps in a vault beneath a Colorado chapel. Perhaps somewhere else. But one thing is certain: whatever is down there is important enough to keep secret. Important enough to guard. And important enough that you'll never be allowed inside. In the remote wilderness of Gakona, Alaska, 180 antennas rise from the ground, pointing toward the sky. This is the High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, HAARP, a facility designed to study the ionosphere, the upper layer of Earth's atmosphere. At least, that's the official explanation. HAARP works by beaming high-frequency radio waves into the ionosphere, heating small sections to observe how they affect communications and weather patterns. The military says it's purely scientific research. But the facility has become a magnet for conspiracy theories, and for good reason. The technology itself sounds like science fiction. The antennas can transmit 3.6 billion watts of power into the atmosphere. That's enough energy to alter weather patterns, some researchers claim. Trigger earthquakes. Disrupt communications across entire continents. Even influence human behavior by affecting the electromagnetic field around the planet. Sounds paranoid? Perhaps. But weather modification is not science fiction. Cloud seeding has been used for decades. China openly uses weather modification for events like the Olympics. The U.S. military experimented with weaponizing weather during the Vietnam War in a program called Operation Popeye. And HAARP's own documents describe potential applications including over-the-horizon radar and communication with submarines. The military closed HAARP in 2013, claiming budget constraints. But in 2015, the University of Alaska took over operations, with continued military funding and oversight. Here's the question: if HAARP is purely scientific, why was it run by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, and the Office of Naval Research? Why is the facility still surrounded by security fences and monitoring equipment? Why are researchers required to sign non-disclosure agreements? In 2010, Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez claimed HAARP caused the Haiti earthquake. In 2011, similar accusations emerged after the Fukushima disaster in Japan. Are these claims credible? Almost certainly not. But they reveal deep suspicion about a facility whose capabilities remain poorly understood by the public. The scientific community insists HAARP's effects are minimal and localized, nothing that could influence weather or trigger seismic events. But if that's true, why the secrecy? Why restrict access so heavily? Why the continued military involvement? HAARP occasionally allows controlled tours for select groups. But the core research remains classified. The antenna field itself is off-limits. And vast sections of the facility are prohibited even to most staff members. What are they really doing in the Alaskan wilderness? Studying the aurora? Or testing something far more powerful, and far more dangerous? I know. The Svalbard seed vault is in Norway, not America. But here's why it belongs on this list. The United States is one of its primary funders and users, and what happens there has massive implications for America's, and the world's, future. Deep inside a mountain on a remote Arctic island, hundreds of millions of seed samples are stored in a frozen vault designed to survive any disaster. Nuclear war. Climate catastrophe. Asteroid impact. The seed vault is humanity's backup drive, a way to restart agriculture if everything goes wrong. The facility is called the Doomsday Vault, and it's built to last. The entrance sits 430 feet above sea level to remain safe from rising oceans. The seeds are stored at -18 degrees Celsius, and even if the cooling system fails, the permafrost would keep them frozen for centuries. The vault can withstand earthquakes and nuclear blasts. What's stored inside? Seeds for 1.1 million crop varieties. Everything from wheat and rice to obscure plants that only grow in remote mountain regions. If a crop goes extinct anywhere in the world, the genetic information to bring it back is here. But here's what makes it mysterious. The vault has been accessed on only a handful of occasions since it opened in 2008. Syria withdrew seeds in 2015 to restore agriculture after their civil war. Recently, samples were requested to help restore crops lost to climate change. Each time the vault is opened, the question arises, what do they know that we don't? What are governments preparing for? The seed vault exists because smart people believe there's a realistic chance of global catastrophe within our lifetimes. And there's another uncomfortable truth: not all nations have equal access. The vault is funded and controlled by a handful of wealthy governments, corporations, and organizations, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, and major agribusiness corporations. In a post-apocalyptic world, they would control the seeds. They would decide who eats and who starves. Critics call it the ultimate form of control, a way for the powerful to maintain dominance even after civilization collapses. Supporters say it's necessary insurance against catastrophe. Either way, you're not getting inside. Only a select few know the vault's full contents. Only a handful of people possess the access codes. And the list of who gets seeds in an emergency. That's classified. If the world ends, there's a backup plan. But it's not for everyone. The Greenbrier is one of America's most luxurious resorts. Presidents, celebrities, and foreign dignitaries have stayed here for over 2 centuries. The property boasts world-class golf courses, fine dining, and elegant rooms. It looks like the last place you'd find a government secret. But beneath the resort lies one of the Cold War's most elaborate deceptions. Codenamed Project Greek Island, the Greenbrier Bunker was built in the late 1950s as a secret shelter for the entire United States Congress in the event of nuclear war. For over 30 years, the bunker remained completely hidden from the public, disguised as part of the resort's expansion. The facility spans 112,544 square feet, buried beneath the resort's West Virginia wing. It contains dormitories for 1,100 people, a hospital, a crematorium, power plant, and even a television studio where leaders could broadcast messages to any survivors. For 3 decades, a small team of government operatives posed as Greenbrier employees. They worked in building maintenance while secretly maintaining the bunker's life support systems, stockpiling supplies, and updating equipment. Resort guests had no idea the men fixing their air conditioning were actually guarding an underground city, and it was decommissioned shortly after. Today, the Greenbrier offers tours of the facility, allowing tourists to walk through Cold War history. But here's the catch: you can only see what they want you to see. The tour covers perhaps 10% of the facility. Entire sections remain off-limits. Sealed doors. Restricted corridors. Areas that guides say are not part of the tour without explaining why. And there's a bigger question: if this bunker was decommissioned, where is Congress going now? The government hasn't stopped preparing for nuclear war. Continuity of government plans are more elaborate than ever. So where's the replacement facility? Some believe Mount Weather is the answer. Others think multiple bunkers exist across the country, their locations classified. A few conspiracy theorists suggest the Greenbrier Bunker was never truly decommissioned, that the exposure was deliberate misdirection while the real facility continues operating deeper underground. After all, why would the government build such an elaborate shelter, maintain it for decades in absolute secrecy, and then just give up on the concept? Nuclear weapons still exist. The threat of war hasn't disappeared. If anything, the world is more unstable now than during the Cold War. The official story is that the Greenbrier Bunker is now a museum, a quaint relic of Cold War paranoia. But former government insiders have hinted that contingency plans for congressional evacuation have only grown more sophisticated. Somewhere, there's a facility ready to shelter our leaders when disaster strikes. Maybe it's Mount Weather. Maybe it's deep beneath another resort, another mountain, another anonymous building you drive past every day. You just won't know about it. Not until it's too late.
Subscribe and hit the notification bell for more journeys into the past together. And as always, stay curious.